What's up guys, it's Mike for Sim Racing 604 and welcome back to Project Cars. I wanted to highlight some of the cars that I've just been having a great time driving in this game. Overall I'm very satisfied with this title, but there are some real standout drives, some standout cars that people should really experience. Obviously 180 cars is a whole lot to digest, so you may have missed some of these gems, and if you have, I invite you to try them. So we're going to start off the list with the BAC Mono, which we're in now. Or is it the BAC Mono? I'm not really sure. I don't know this car outside of sim racing, but I can tell you in Project Cars 2, it is a absolute pleasure to drive. The physics are phenomenal, and it's somewhat akin to the I guess it would sort of take a similar spot to the Radical, was it the SR8 that made a recent appearance in R Factor 2. Just a fun car, a little, you know, sort of open wheeler that's just fun to just throw around a track. But more so than the Radical, I like to say it has little tolerance for nonsense. If you push this thing too hard, it will go out on you. But overall, just a real pleasure to drive. So that's the BAC Mono. Yeah, so it's just a phenomenal driving car, and I believe one of the better in this title. And the second car we want to highlight is the Radical RXC. So this is a road car, and I say that in the loosest sense. This thing is just straight up and down fast, but at the same time handles like I would like a supercar or hypercar to handle. There's no question that you have a ton of power at the back end. Under hard acceleration, the rear end does tend to go out on you, but it never feels like it's out of control, doesn't feel too slippery, that kind of thing, and really demands a lot of you as a driver. So it's pretty much perfect as hypercars go, or supercars in this case, I suppose. And just a real blast to drive. That back end will break loose, but you can generally keep it under control, and just makes for some really fun hot lapping when you push this thing kind of a little bit beyond its limits. It's fun to try and steer it back in line. So the Radical RXC is the second on my list. So the third entry on my list will be the Toyota LMP1 car, the TS040, 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 whatever you want to call this car. One thing you will not call it is slow on the track. This thing absolutely rips, and it's going to really challenge your ability to drive a car. Very fair in its physics. If you get too brave with it, the back end will step out. However, if you trust the downforce, you can really push this thing, and it is just a fantastic entry. You've seen this car in a lot of different sims recently, and I think Slightly Mad Studios has done a good job of capturing this car as anyone else, and it pairs nicely with something like this, Spa, or of course the Le Mans track. It's yeah, just a real great car to drive, and that's why it's on this list. So the TS040 from Toyota is the third entry on my list of 7 great cars in Project Cars 2. And let's move on to number 4. So the fourth entry is the Ford GT LM GTE. So oh, that's a whole lot of letters. It is the GTE class entry from Ford, and obviously built on the Ford GT platform. So this is kind of a you know, GTE class car on top of a hypercar, which I was glad to see entered. I think the Ford GT is a really cool car, and then bringing it to, I guess you'd almost bring it down to GTE specs, has really done a lot for the car, and it's just a real fun thing to drive. Obviously, as you can see, it is super fast, but you know, never feels out of control or anything like that. Great handling car, and yeah, just a whole lot of fun, and built exactly for tracks like this. So the Ford GT LM GTE is the 4th entry on my list here at Laguna Seca, and just so much fun to drive. Always feels under control, but at the same time, you know, same as the other entries in the list, you push it too hard and it will go out on you. But I just love driving this car. This was one of the first cars I drove in this game where I thought, yeah, Project Cars 2 kind of nailed it. So Ford GT LM GTE number 4. Alright, so the 5th entry on our list here is the Mitsubishi Evo 9. So this car actually came to my attention because people online, owners of the real car, were saying just how perfect it is. And that is the word they used, that it's perfect. The amount of oversteer and the way we overcome the understeer is absolutely rendered perfectly in this game. And I think that's very, very high praise. When you get the owners of the actual car saying how good it is, I think that speaks volumes. So the Mitsubishi Evo 9 is number 5. Obviously very, very road legal and very, very fun to drive. Yeah, we're not talking LMP1 speeds, of course, in a road car, but still just a blast to drive. It handles amazingly, and again, very, very true to life. So much fun to drive, and nice to know that if I ever decide to go down the road of owning a Mitsubishi Evo 9, that I have a perfect rendering that I can beat up in my basement instead of beating it up on the road. A lot of fun in this Evo 9, and that brings it to number 5 on the list. Alright, so the next entry is the KTM X-Bow. I've mentioned a few times on this list that we have cars that have great handling, but they punish you when you push it too hard. The KTM has great handling, but it doesn't even punish you. This is a car you can just beat the snot out of, and we'll take it. And that is really awesome. It's a fun car to take to Nords, especially. That's where I've had the most fun, Nordschleife that is. And you can just push it, push it, push it. Just feel the tires burning the whole way around, and just so much fun. So, you know, is it accurate? I don't know. We could go to Sesto Corsa and kind of get a different opinion on how this car would handle. However, based solely on fun factor, this car belongs on my list of 7 cars you should drive, because again, it's just fun to beat up and torture around this course. So the KTM X-Bow is the second to last entry on my list of 7 cars. And yeah, I gotta admit, I kind of want to complete this whole lap. I won't do that to you though, but hard to turn this car off. It's just so much fun. Alright, coming in with the last spot on my list of 7 great cars for Project Cars 2 is the Audi R8 LMS 24-hour edition. So this is a GT3 car, and make no mistake, GT3 cars are not all created equal. So this thing is almost, you could almost describe it kind of as the perfect race car. It's super fast and yet stable. It's everything you could really want in a race car, and I just love driving this thing. Something like Imola, where I'm at now, is kind of the perfect course for it. I haven't, unfortunately, spent very much time in this thing to really master the car track combo. However, what I have felt has been great so far. It's just an awesome feeling car, and if you're looking to kind of settle into the GT3 scene, I know it will be big in the online lobbies. This would be a great car to hitch your wagon to. As I say, it combines great performance with you know, feeling of being stable, great physics, that kind of thing. It's got it all wrapped up in a nice little Audi bow. So that is the last entry here, and I did want to add two more cars that I was kind of disappointed in, so I'll get into that next. But just want to solicit some opinions here. Guys, if you want to go in the comments and let me know what cars you're enjoying. Obviously I haven't had a chance to sample all 180 cars, but if you found some that are not on this list that you're really enjoying, that you think other people should try, please let me know in the comments. And let's get into some cars that I was kind of disappointed in. Alright, so I don't want to, I'll preface these two kind of undesirable cars by saying I don't want to dwell on the negative. God knows there's enough negativity surrounding this game online. I don't need to jump on that bandwagon. However, I did want to point out something. Hopefully Slightly Mad Studios gets wind of this from myself or someone else. There are a couple cars that are really disappointing. This McLaren 720S being foremost among them. They've been touting this car since way before release. I think they were the first ones to have access to this car, and so expectations were high. Not just that, it's the default car, and that's not an alphabetical thing when you jump into this game. So it's the first car many of us drove, and it's not surprising that there's been a lot of day one refunds of this game based on this car. It just has no life. That's the best way I could describe it. Doesn't really have a lot of feel. If you put it up against something like the BAC Mono that I reviewed off the top, it's just a complete letdown, and that's very unfortunate. I was excited for this car. I'm a fan of McLaren's, but this one comes out flat. And my attitude was certainly in the right place. I wanted this thing to succeed as much as anyone, but it just never was given a chance, unfortunately. And like I say, this was kind of the feature car of the title, and I just can't stand how this thing drives. So this one is a real disappointment to me. So the second and final negative review I will give to a car in Project Cars 2 is the Sesto Elemento from Lamborghini. So unfortunately, once again, this is a car I wanted to succeed. I love this car in real life. I think this is, you know, when I was a kid we used to have posters of Lamborghinis and Ferraris on our wall, and this would fall into that category. This is a carbon fiber everything car, insane amount of horsepower, and is a complete letdown. So right now as I'm driving this, it feels like I'm on the Mercedes ice road course. There's no feel whatsoever to this car. How did it go so wrong? I really wanted to believe in this thing, but once again, if you have cars like the Audi R8 LMS and this in the same game, how are they so far off in physics? It's just a real disappointment. Not so much physics, I guess, but handling characteristics and just overall life. Much the same as the 720S, I would just kind of describe it as lifeless. There's no feedback in this thing, nothing to make you really feel like you're engaged with the track or anything like that. So unfortunately, big letdown in the Sesto Elemento. So alright guys, that's going to do it. Somewhat of a quick video. We're not going to spend a lot of time on each car, but I do want to know in the comments, please let me know, what cars do you like? Have I got something completely wrong? If so, let me know what you think of it. What cars do you like? And we'll try and focus on the positive. If there's a car that you absolutely hate, then by all means leave, you know, air out your grievances. But mostly I want to focus on the positive. I want to know what cars you absolutely love. So thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.